Hey everybody, this is Jim Kurtz, and welcome to the Profitable Farmer. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things, but the primary topic is going to be how to fine tune your plants. Now, this is a very interesting subject, and it may be a little different from those of you guys who are used to traditional discussions about inputs and water and photosynthesis and the things you would normally discuss in a farming discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about some research that has been out for quite a while. Actually, the last 5 or 6 years. This research really started all the way back in the beginning of the 20th century or the late 19th century when they were discussing the effects of different music on plant growth and plant health. And there was a number of different experiments that went on back then, number of researchers that were testing different types of music and its effects on plant stimulation. And of course, back in the 50s and 60s, you had a number of people that were, I guess you consider beatnik or hippie-ish or whatever, that believed, hey, if you talk to your plants or if you play certain types of music for your plants, they'll grow healthier and strong. It turns out that is actually correct to a degree. And if you want to be more precise, there are certain frequencies of sound waves that will actually create positive effects on plant growth. Then likewise, there are other sound waves or other frequencies that can have negative effects to your plants. And so it's interesting, though, that what was considered the topic of research that was important is music. Now, if you think of a musical piece, any type of song, you have a wide variety of different sounds, right? Let's just take, I don't know, take a Beatles song or take a country music song or take a piece of classical music, right? Any one of these types of music will have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of individual notes or individual frequencies, right? For example, if you take an orchestral piece, right, you'll see that an orchestra will have, let's say, 100 different instruments in that orchestra, and you have maybe 20 violin players and a few cello players and some flutes and some horns and some drums and different types of instruments within an orchestra, right? So if you have 100 different instruments and they're playing a song, and each instrument might play within the course of that song, maybe a few thousand notes, let's say in a 10-minute music piece, right? Even a pop song like a Beatles song, you have the singers, and you have the drummer, Ringo Starr playing the drums, and you have the different the guitar, the bass, the singers, maybe a piano. You have different musical pieces. Even in those songs, like a pop song, you'll still have several hundred different musical notes or individual frequencies that are repeated multiple times. Even in a 4-minute song, you may hear hundreds of thousand individual frequencies of sound. So what they were looking at all the way in the early research in terms of sound waves and how it can affect plant physiology, they're really looking at a very crude sort of methodology of music and how music can affect plant growth. And it's very difficult to really measure and figure out what individual sounds or individual frequencies or individual pieces of music would be beneficial, which ones are not. Because take any song, and how do you distill out of the hundreds of thousands of sounds you might hear in a 4 or 5 minute song? How do you distill those exact frequencies that are going to create a positive effect on the plants? And in most of that research that went on before, the researchers either didn't bother to or were not able to really isolate those frequencies. But fast forwarding many, many years to the early 2000s and beyond, there's been a lot of research on what specific frequency patterns of sound waves can actually stimulate plant growth. And in fact, if you go on our website, harvestharmonics.com, and uh, go to the blog page. If you go to harvestharmonics.com/blog and you scroll down, it might be on the second or third page, but you'll see a blog article called The Effects of Frequencies on Plants. And we actually outline some of the recent research over the past 15, 20 years on researchers that have studied specific frequency patterns that can enhance various factors like nitrogen absorption, like water absorption, like photosynthesis efficiency, and other things. And they were really able to get down into discrete waves or frequencies of radio waves. And that research has been ongoing. In fact, the researcher who developed our technology, the Humanized Plant Booster, discovered over 3,000 individual frequencies and the pattern of those frequencies. It's not just a matter of having the right note, let's say, or the right frequency of sound. You have to have it in the right order and the right timing mechanism to really produce a positive effect on plants. And so he was able to distill and isolate the exact frequencies needed and the exact algorithm or pattern of those frequencies to optimize plant health. And over the past 2 years, we've just seen amazing, amazing results on farms all over the world. All different types of plants and crops are just getting amazing results with this technology. But let me back up a second here from this technical explanation of frequencies and just give you a few maybe simple analogies to help you describe how this technology works and how these radio wave frequencies can actually stimulate plant health. Now, most of us here, if you're watching this, most of you are familiar with how a radio works, right? Or a stereo in your car, right? But the radio basically is sending out tons of radio waves at very, very high frequency patterns, right? But what happens is the radio that you have in your car, or on your desk, or in your house, or whatever, has an amplifier, but that it has a receiver that can actually distinguish those different frequencies. And what happens is you tune it to a very specific frequency, or we call it a channel, right? So let's say if you want to listen to pop music or something, you go on your tuner and you tune it into a very specific frequency. It might be 92.7 FM or 105 FM or something like that. Now, what FM actually stands for is frequency modulation, or frequency. They're actually changing or modulating the frequency patterns. And so, what you do when you're tuning a radio is you're actually tuning into a very specific channel or set of frequencies or range of frequencies by which that music station is operating on. So, one music station, for example, might send out these radio waves at the frequency pattern from 100 megahertz to 101.1 megahertz, right? And within that range, all the music and all the sound signals are sent through that channel, and then your stereo can pick it up and then, of course, amplify it so we can hear the music. Now, what happens if the station is supposed to be, let's say, 101.3, and you tune it in on your tuner to 101.3? Well, you hear the music loud and clear, right? And what happens when you take that tuner and tune it into 101.5, the next click over? What happens is you may still hear the music somewhat, but you're going to hear a lot of fuzz and a lot of static and a lot of distortion. And then you click it one more notch to 101.9, and maybe all you hear is static. There's no actual music whatsoever that you're hearing. And what that basically means is that the receiver has moved away from the ideal frequency to pick up that channel, the ideal set of frequencies. So within this range, you hear music and it's loud, it's clear, and it's the music you want to hear, right? You go a little bit over, maybe like a couple 100,000 hertz or something, or 100,000 hertz, and now all of a sudden you hear a lot of static. You may pick up a little bit of the signal from the channel, but you're going to hear mostly static. And then you go to another 10,000 hertz, let's say, and now all of a sudden you can't hear anything. It's all static. It's all just garbage. There's no signal there, basically, because the radio waves are set to operate and be sent according to a very narrow band of signals. And so if you have it right on the dial where it's supposed to be, you'll hear clear music. If you have a little bit off, you'll hear distorted or fuzzy music. And then if you hear a little bit further off, you don't hear anything at all. You just hear static. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because plants actually operate in a very same way. In fact, humans and all living things operate according to a frequency, and they operate within a range, a narrow range of frequencies. In other words, the biological processes in your body or a plant body or anything else, any living thing, operates according to a very narrow band by which it can operate. So, as in a human, for example, we have a heartbeat, right? The heartbeat beats at 60 to 70 beats per minute. And as long as your heart continues to beat at that frequency, then your body will be healthy. All of your organs will work correctly, all of your muscles will work correctly, your blood flows, everything is fine. Now, you start speeding up, let's say if you're just resting and your heart starts beating at 80 to 100 beats a minute, right? And it's beating like this, and it starts beating faster. And I'm not talking about you went for a run. I'm talking about just when you're sitting there resting, instead of beating at 60 beats a minute, it's beating at 80 beats a minute or maybe 100 beats a minute. Now, what's going to happen over time to the organs in your body? Well, they're designed to operate at 60 to 70 beats per minute. Instead, they're beating at 90 beats a minute, so it causes the other organs in your body to operate at a frequency that they're not supposed to operate at. And so eventually, they're not going to be able to function. Your digestion will be ruined. Your lungs won't be able to absorb oxygen. The blood won't be able to absorb oxygen or carry carbon dioxide out of your system, and it throws your whole body out of whack. Now, what happens in a plant? Well, a plant's physiology, obviously, is not digestion, but photosynthesis. So it's actually taking nutrients and water from the soil, and through the use of the sunlight's energy, it's able to recombine the molecular structure of those raw materials into glucose, or in this case of fruits and vegetables, fructose or glucose or whatever, and it's able to then present fruits and vegetables and produce crops for all of us to eat, right? So what happens in a plant if it's in its ideal state where it's getting everything according to the frequency that it's supposed to get it at? It's getting water and nutrients and carbon dioxide at the right level and at the right pace. And then it's utilizing the sun's energy, so it's able to break apart those molecular bonds efficiently. And then it's able to recombine those molecular bonds into different substances, which make up fruits and vegetables. In a long story short, if everything is operated according to the right timing or frequency mechanism, that plant through photosynthesis is going to produce a lot of fruits and vegetables. However, if it gets off just a little bit, it's not going to be as efficient. It'll start to slow down. It won't produce as much energy or as much fruits and vegetables. And if it slows way down, if you have serious weather conditions like a serious heat wave or lack of water or something like that, and it slows way down, then that plant could actually die and it may not even produce anything. So I'm telling you this because if a plant's operating at the right frequency pattern, if its biology is operating at the right frequency, and everything is fine tuned in to where everything's just perfect, that plant is going to produce a very high quantity and quality of crops and fruits and vegetables. And you'll find that it also has enough energy to fend off insects and funguses and disease, which would normally eat up a lot of your crops. Even if you're producing a good crop to begin with, you may be losing 20 or 30, 40% of your crop due to these insects and other things that are killing off the plant. So just imagine for a second if you had a plant that was more resistant to weather fluctuations and could stay in its ideal frequency pattern, as opposed to getting thrown off by, let's say, excess heat or other stresses. Well, that plant is going to produce a lot more fruits and vegetables, and the fruits and vegetables that it produces is going to be a much higher quality than ever before. Now, I'm telling you all this because the Kiminasi plant booster utilizes a very unique system of radio waves to continually reinforce the ideal and retune that photosynthesis process, even when, let's say, if it's a perfect weather, perfect day, everything is aligned and all the biological processes of the plant are generating the maximum energy. Now, let's say you get a heat wave and it starts to get really hot, and the plant's normal bent is to reduce the timing, and now it's not producing energy the way it should. Our system is continually keeping that plant aligned and keeping it at its optimum energy production state, even in hot weather, even in drought conditions, even in situations where normally a plant would lose a lot of its ability to continue to generate energy. And that, of course, translates into more fruit and vegetables, better quality, better shelf life, better insect resistance, and better fungal and disease resistance as well. So we can accomplish a lot just by keeping that plant in its fine-tuned optimal state and utilizing the radio wave technology and the algorithms and programming of the Kiminasi plant booster. We're able to keep that plant in its optimum photosynthesis level so that it can produce as much as that plant can produce. And so you get plants that grow faster, you get more fruits and vegetables, you get better quality, and ultimately, as a farmer, you're going to make a lot more money while spending less money on inputs. So if that sounds good to you, if you'd like to try something that actually can benefit your plants, not just now, but also over the long term, then give us a call at 727-324-6750. The Kiminasi Plant Booster is a new approach to a very old set of problems that farmers face, which is how do we account for fluctuating weather conditions? How do we account for the fact that some years the insect population just goes into overdrive, In some years, the weather conditions are just not ideal. It's just cloudy for a long period of time and there's not as much sunlight. Or maybe it's just super hot, like you get 100-degree days for 30 or 40 days in a row. And even though you're irrigating, the plants just can't keep going, just can't stay alive and stay healthy because it's just too hot for them. So if you're having these kinds of problems, or if you want more of a stable, consistent solution to this, then the Kemonacia plant booster is really going to help you. It's going to help you so that you're not continually chasing these same problems over and over and over on your farm. You're going to have a solution that's going to make the plant itself as healthy and productive as it possibly can be given its genetic makeup. And of course, that's going to translate into a lot more production and profitability for you, the farmer. So I just want to let's see if you have any questions, guys. If you have questions, like let me know. I'm happy to answer them for you. I don't want to make this all a one-way flow. I do have a couple of questions I see here. One is, can the technology work in any climate? The answer is yes. We've seen amazing results. Now, again, we're not going to grow cacti in the Arctic Circle up in the North Pole, but we do see tremendous differences. In fact, in colder climates, what we've seen is the season is able to extend. So we're able to keep those crops going even at the end of your season. If you get an early frost or something, the Kemonacia plant booster does seem to make the plants more resilient to those types of conditions. Again, in the middle of the summertime or in very hot climates where you would normally see a very limited growing season, again, we're able to give those plants more resilience to that excess heat so that it continues to stay alive and continues to stay productive even in those hot, harsh weather. So very good question. But yes, we do can grow in any climate. In fact, Tech 7, technology version 7, I'm told, which is the next line of research that we're exploring, is really, I believe, geared toward. And don't hold me to this, but this is what I've heard. I believe is geared toward cold climates, like super cold climates up north in Canada and Russia and other places where it's very difficult to grow, where the season is extremely short. I believe Tech 7 is really geared specifically for those colder climates where farmers are having a real short season or a real tough time. And of course, we'll give you more information and updates on exactly how the newest version of our technology works when it comes out. But it's not going to invalidate or do anything to our current version, which works pretty much everywhere. Let's see here. I'm not seeing a lot of questions. I'm going to hop over to YouTube here. Let's see, guys, if you have questions on YouTube or here on Facebook, let me know. I'm here to help you guys be profitable. The question I get a lot is, am I going to have to change the way I farm? Now, the way I answer that question is you don't really have to change the way you're farming, but we do recommend that you really pay attention to your fertility program, your nutrient program, and your spraying program because what we're seeing on a lot of farms is a reduced need for a lot of extra fertilizer. So if you're typically saying putting 5 tons of fertilizer on your field per acre, you might be able to, obviously looking at your soil tests and stuff and evaluating based upon what you're seeing, you may notice that you only have to use 3 tons or even 2 tons. In some cases, some farmers are telling us they almost didn't fertilizer. They use like 60 or 70% less fertilizer versus where they were when they started a couple of years before that. Now, the reason we're able to do that is because we're enhancing microbial activity in the soil, and that's taking over their natural function, which is to actually provide more nitrogen and other nutrients that the plants need. So a lot of that we do manually now through fertility programs is being reverted back to nature's process, which is improving microbial activity in the soil so that they can break down the minerals and the chemicals in the soil to make them usable to plants. And that has a number of benefits too, because now not only are you spending less money on inputs, but also it's less of the stuff that's getting into the environment or the waterways and creating other environmental problems as well. Any other questions here? Just open it up here. I want to see any questions here. Hop over to YouTube. Not seeing any questions, guys. Well, if you're curious about this, if you're looking to be more profitable, oh, here's another one here. How does it benefit cattle? Very good question, actually. Yeah, we've used this on dairy farms and other cattle farms, and what we're seeing on cattle farms is if you're pasturing the cows or grass feeding them, if you are able to water the pasture with Kemonacia plant booster with our irrigation device, then it will actually make the grass healthier and more nutrient dense for the cows. So, in cases of dairy farms, they're seeing a much improved dairy production where they're producing more milk per cow per day than before because of the way that they're able to increase crude protein and other factors of the feed. So if they're grazing on alfalfa, let's say, it will have a higher protein content and higher nutrient density, which is of course going to lead to healthier cows that can produce more milk. Or in the case of beef cows, they'll be bulking up much faster than you would typically expect. It's a very good question there. Does it work with non-irrigation farmers is a question I see. So the answer to that question is unfortunately no. Right now, our Kiminasi plant booster is an irrigation device. It's designed to work with irrigation systems. Now we can work from anything down to a garden hose and all the way up to a big, 15-inch pipes that are pumping out 2,600 gallons a minute or more and everywhere in between. So if you have an irrigation system, it doesn't really matter the size, but you do need an irrigation. So if you're strictly relying on rainfall, right now our product is not designed for that, but we are working on research and development to provide a foliar application for all farmers that you don't need an irrigation system. And when that comes out, of course, we'll let you guys know and make sure you guys are understanding that. That looks kind of like all the questions we have, guys. If you're kind of curious about how profitable the Kiminasi plant booster is, I'll let you know. If you're growing any type of specialty crops, we're seeing 10 to 20 times the return on investment on this. So for every dollar you give me, you should expect to see 10 to $20 back in terms of increased yield and increased quality, as well as improved uh, profitability with reduced input costs. So if you're looking to improve and see exactly how much this costs or exactly what your investment is going to look like, we build every system for the farm and the irrigation system that it's installed on. So I'll need a little bit of information from you. Underneath this post, you'll see a variety of forms that you can fill out where we need the information we need, and then we'll be able to give you a customized quote. If you're not or otherwise, you can also go to our website at harvestharmonics.com, and you can go to our website and fill out the required form there. And once we get back to you, we'll work with you and customize the system for your farm to make sure that you're profitable as well. That's all I got today, guys. I want to just let you know that radio wave frequencies is the future of farming because anything that's this effective in producing the kinds of results we've been seeing over the last 2 years is bound to just get out there. More and more farmers are going to be talking about it. And because it also reduces input costs, it's definitely going to be a cost-effective solution for your long-term and sustainable farming operation. So if you'd like to become part of the future of farming today and a lot more profitable this next year, give me a call at 727-324-6750, or you can email me at service@harvestharmonics.com. I would love to work with you one-on-one to show you how you can become part of the future of farming today. Have a great day, guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow.